So much of illustration depends on the ability to draw and paint the human figure. Whether it's photorealistic, cartoony, or your own unique style somewhere in between, it's important to have some basic understanding of how to draw human anatomy to help you represent that in your artwork. Hi, I'm Dion, welcome back. I recently asked you what you would like to see more of, and the response was more anatomy techniques. So in today's video lesson, I'm going to show you how I sketch the character pose, similar to what you saw at the beginning of this video. Let's begin. To begin the drawing, I'm using a 2H lead pencil. A hard lead gently applied to the paper gives you a faint line that's easy to remove with an eraser, if needed, and won't smudge as easily if your hand rests on the drawing. I'll start lightly sketching where I think the spine will be, and add a horizontal line for the shoulders. From the spine, I'll extend the neck and place a ball on top to represent the back of the head. Then I'll place another horizontal line at the base of the spine to indicate where the buttocks are against the ground. Now that I have a general length for the upper body, I can think about how wide the shoulders should be. Starting with the right shoulder, I make a rough indication of the shoulder joint, and then I'm going to bring a line down for the arm. While I'm doing this, I'm keeping in mind that the right arm is supporting the weight of the character, so this will push the right shoulder up, whilst twisting the upper part of the torso and lifting the left buttock off the ground slightly. As I now have a better idea of the volume or shape of the torso, I can create some structural lines for the neck and begin to add volume to the arms. I'm keeping these sketch lines very simple. The more simplistic they are, the easier it is to adjust later. As I start to see more of the body begin to appear in the sketch, I can start to think about the outline of the torso and how it's going to be positioned in this drawing, how the neck will be tilted and how much of the face is visible as it's slightly turned. I'm continuously moving to different sections of the drawing so as to build up the structures slowly and all at the same time, such as the hand, which I'll keep as just a solid shape for now. Where I can, I'll remove my construction lines so I can focus on the more important line work. This helps me to get a better sense of what lines are important to the drawing and reduces the confusion. And of course, if I make a mistake and remove something that was important, I can always go back and replace it. It's important to remember while constructing the sketch to remember that it's a 3D object. Lines that represent an outer edge are only there to indicate negative space around the object. They can sometimes create a distortion to the object, like make an arm appear too wide or the torso appear too long. It's when the illusion of shadow and light are added that it gives us a better understanding of the form, and all the more reason it helps to get your preliminary sketch right in the beginning to help you create a strong final piece. Now the left hand is resting on the hilt of her sword, and I want to give the impression of exhaustion, so it's going to just be hanging here as most of the body weight is on the right arm. And I'm only going to give an indication of the shapes again for the left hand. The looser I keep it, the easier it is to adjust later if needed. Now in placing the left arm, I can see that the left shoulder was too wide. I needed to allow for the foreshortening that occurs when an object has one end closer to the viewer than the other. This foreshortening is also occurring in the upper and lower left arm. For the right arm, I can pinpoint the elbow as about halfway from the wrist to the top of the shoulder. The general rule is to make your figure drawings about 8 heads in height, with the arm length being about 1.5 heads in length. This can of course sometimes be a bit tricky to work out when designing a character where body parts are foreshortened or behind other parts, but sometimes making a rough guesstimate and adjusting where needed is all it takes. The great thing about the initial sketching phase is that it's just an experimentation, working out where the forms of muscles and bones will sit and how they are affected depending on the movement of the character or angle at which the character is positioned. Once I feel that most of the body parts are positioned where I want them to be, I can start to think about the undulations of the muscles and how they cast a shadow or catch the light. As the leg is partly hidden and positioned away from us, with the feet coming back towards us, this creates a really interesting challenge. As I'm starting to feel the body shape is going really nicely, I can embellish the sketch with some of the clothing as you saw in the original painting. I think this time I'll keep it less bulky though. Okay, now I'm going to place a piece of tracing paper over the first sketch. You don't necessarily need tracing paper to do this. You could use a light box or place your sketch on a window. The idea is now simply to start refining the line work we established in the first sketch. I'm working with a darker pencil lead for this step. This is a B lead, not too dark. It does smudge a lot more than the 2H, so I'm careful not to drag my hand over the artwork while I'm drawing. Now if I place a nice sheet of that cheap photocopy paper behind the tracing paper, I'm only left with the detailed lines that I want to keep. The reduced busyness of the work lets me have a clearer picture of where to add my shadows and what areas need further attention. And here I'll repeat the step with another piece of tracing paper. Now you may not need to go this far, I just find that using these steps eliminates the worry of destroying my underlying sketch, as I can always go back to it if needed. I can experiment with shadows and clothing details, change body positions and proportions, such as the fingers, without worrying that I've lost the initial line forever. And let's give this character a mohawk as something a little different. And there you have it. I hope you found this useful, and stay tuned for the next video as I'll show you how to paint your sketch using acrylic ink. All these techniques and more will be demonstrated in my illustration course, which I will leave a link to in the description below. Thanks for watching and look forward to seeing you here again soon.